are now tied with Marco Rubio for third place behind Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. You're down 4 points since the last CNN poll in November. You have lost some ground. What's your reaction to that?
Polls go up and down, and I suspect there'll probably be a fair amount of movement, particularly in the last few weeks before the Iowa caucus. But you know, you have to be steady. You have to keep on message, and help people to recognize that, you know, our nation needs real answers. We don't need, you know, rhetoric. We don't need personalities. We need real answers. And as we get closer, I hope people will listen very carefully, not only to me, but to all the candidates. Really listen to the substance of what's being said.
Okay, so you said polls go up and down, but clearly there must be some concern about it because you told the Washington Post today that you were shaking up your campaign. And here's what the Post quotes you as saying: "I am looking at every aspect of the campaign right now. Everything is on the table. Every job is on the table. And there could be some changes as soon as tomorrow," you said. So that made some waves, but then your campaign told CNN that you have 100% confidence in your team and that the senior team will stay in place. So clarify, what is going on here?
Well, I think the Washington Post, quite frankly, had their story already written before they talked to me, and they were convinced that I was going to fire everybody and that we were going to just go in a completely different direction, and that's absolutely not true. I said, you know, we are constantly looking at everything, and we're going to continue to look at everything. No one is ever 100% guaranteed that they're always going to be there, and that as the organization grows and as our responsibilities grow, you know, some things may have to change. We may have to add some people. We may have to change some people. The key word there is may. We're always going to be looking at it. We're always going to be evaluating how people are performing. But keep in mind, you know, having a team like the one that I have that went from no place in March with no organization, no list, no donors, no nothing, to this place is really quite spectacular. And, you know, people say, what about the finances? Well, remember, with no startup organization like senators and governors and other people have, it is very expensive to get up and running.
Okay.
Once you get up and running, the expenses go down, on which they are starting to do.
Okay, so let's discuss then some of the quotes, because you're saying that you think that their story was already written. But you did you not indeed tell them that I am looking at every aspect of the campaign right now? Everything is on the table, every job is on the table, and we're going to analyze it very carefully. It is not perfect, and we're going to work on it. And then you said you wanted more efficiency in terms of the money that is utilized, and you were frustrated because the campaign was being described by critics as a rat hole for small dollar donations. So you did tell them that.
I did tell them that, and I just explained to you that it is not a rat hole, and that any organization that's going to run a national campaign from scratch with no donor list is going to have high expenses early on. Anybody knows that. I think the people who wrote that in the Wall Street Journal knew that. But they're always looking for sensationalism. They're always looking for a way to say you're doing something wrong, when in fact that would be standard, and actually I think we're probably ahead of the curve.
Did you speak to the Washington Post without your campaign knowledge, without the campaign manager's knowledge?
They knew that I had an interview, but they were not there, no.
Okay. So here's what your press secretary, Deanna Bass, and your friend, business manager Armstrong Williams, both quoted, and this is quotes from them in these articles, saying that Dr. Carson is back in charge. So are you taking a more active role in this campaign, in the strategy, to show people that you are becoming, that you're more of a leader than the conception that may be out there?
As things have gone on, and as we've gotten bigger, and as there are more challenges, I've had to become more involved. There's no question about that.
Do you think you have the right people around you at this point, Dr. Carson?
I think the people that I have are spectacular. I would wonder who else could, you know, get someone who's an outsider with no organization to this point this quickly.
The reason I ask you is because, you know, you were doing well as of a few months ago, but just because you had the right team around you 6 months ago, does that necessarily mean that they're the right team around you now? Because 6 months ago, foreign policy wasn't an issue, terrorism wasn't on the table, So I ask you again, do you think you have the right people to deal with those issues? Because many people say that's why you have faltered in the polls, is because of your response specifically to national security and to terrorism.
I think the people that I have around me are excellent individuals. Will we, over the course of time, add more people? Will we make some changes and alterations? Of course we will, because we always are going to adjust with the circumstances.
Are you asking members of your team to take pay cuts?
I am asking members of my team to make sure that all of our salaries are in alignment with what would be normal for the job functions they have.
So according to, and this is in the Washington Post and on Background, we have heard that there are stories of concern from your team members in Iowa and in South Carolina, from staffers there, that they're not happy, and that you are hearing the cries from those folks, because that is a direct reflection of what's happening in your national team, which controls everything. They're concerned that your national team does not understand what's going on in those places, and there needs to be some rejiggering.
As I said, as organizations grow and they become more complex, sometimes you have to reorganize or make changes. Those are things that I'm looking at very carefully right now.
Have you spoken to your team today? As I understand, according to the Washington Post, you had a conference call, and on Background, I also hear that it was a long conference call where there was sort of a come to Jesus moment, because you are quoted as saying there could be changes as soon as tomorrow, and then they sent us this statement clarifying that there won't be any changes, you said, with your main team. So what happened?
Well, we discuss all the things that are going on, what things need to be going on, what things need to change. I think we're all in alignment on that page, and we will continue to assess the situation as we go on.
Were you ready?
It's a dynamic process.
I have to ask you, though, so in the interviews that you gave this morning, and then after this conference call at 3:30, it seems to be, and quite honestly, Dr. Carson, a sort of change in tone and a change in approach. Before this call, were you ready to change teams or dump members of your team?
Not at all. As I said, I believe that the Washington Post already had the story written that they wanted to do. And I actually found it kind of surprising because, you know, Mr. Costas had done a story some months ago about how our campaign was in total shambles and about to disappear. And then, you know, I saw him not too long ago. He said, you know, I was wrong about that. I would publicly admit that. So I thought maybe he would be a little more chastened in the way that he reported this time, but apparently not.
Okay.
I guess a leopard doesn't change its spots.
So let's talk about the other people who are in the race, specifically now Donald Trump dominating this race. You appeal to a lot of people as a kind of antidote to his bluster. Do you still believe that you have that appeal, that same kind of appeal to people?
I believe that as time goes on, and particularly as we get closer and people begin to be very serious about the kind of leadership that we're going to have in this country, that they will be taking a second and a third look. And that's why we have an elongated primary process. That's why it isn't just a couple of months.
Yeah. So at one point, you were leading the race. Are you at all worried that you may have lost some of your supporters to Ted Cruz? I mean, he predicted at a fundraiser earlier this month that gravity would take its toll on your campaign and your supporters would go to him. Are you concerned that you have lost your supporters to Ted Cruz?
I'm sure there are many people who are very, very carefully considering where their vote should go. They're in flux. And, you know, as I used to always say as a surgeon, when people would ask me what was going to happen, I would say, why guess when soon you'll know?
Yeah. What do you see as the path to victory for you now? I mean, do you feel like you have to win in Iowa?
I would certainly like to win in Iowa. And, you know, I was in Iowa this weekend before a number of different audiences. And I was very encouraged as I talked to the people in the rope line afterwards. And so many of them said, you know what, I was on the fence, but I'm with you now, because when I hear you in person, it's so different than the little snippets and things that we get on the debates.
So, you know, as we wrap this up, I want to know, I want you to tell the viewers, because people are, you know, people were watching and they maybe at one time were your supporters or still are, because of the stories that have happened today, because what happened, the interviews that have happened this morning and then the clarification, I'm sure people are concerned, are wondering where your campaign is going. Do you want to reassure the American people? What do you have to say to the American people about your campaign and how you're going to continue on with it?
Well, I would say that there are a lot of people who are very concerned about my campaign because, you know, I'm a maverick. I'm not a politician. And I believe in the Constitution. I believe that this country is up for and by the people, and I'm not going to play the games, and I'm not going to get involved with special interest groups. And, you know, if that's the kind of thing that people want, and somebody who has a history of tremendous accomplishments and not a history of talking a lot, then they will choose me. And if not, they will choose somebody else, a politician, and that'll be fine too, if that's what they want.